Gentles and ladymen. I'm Spiro, and I'm not a wizard. Today, in episode 5 of our Learning Commodore 64 Basic tutorial series, we're going to cover maximum line lengths for our listings and maximum variable lengths. The line lengths, there is a restriction to how long each line of code can be in our program listings. We can have multiple commands on one line separated by colons. The number of characters across a screen is 40. So the maximum line length of a basic program line is 80 characters, so 2 lines. There are ways that we can kind of cheat. So let's start with something simple. Let's show you, we'll do a simple print statement, if I can type. This is a long line of text that won't fit in to our program listing because it's too long. So this line now is effectively 2.5 lines. What happens, and this is one of the only times that the operating system or the basic interpreter here is going to do some bounds checking, and it can't save it into memory because this line 10 is too long. So it'll tell us it's a syntax error. And not only that, it hasn't saved it into memory. It can't. It's too long. So if we have this as a shorter line that might just fit, how about it almost? I'm going to leave it here. We could fit, there we go, we've got exactly 80 characters now, and you'll notice that the cursor has wrapped around, so it's, if we had entered one more character it would be character 81, and that would be too long. So it's accepted that now, where it hasn't spat out an error. So if we list it, it got a bit funny about it. Let's shorten it by 1 and try and save it. And now it accepted it. So that's kind of weird in that it didn't really let us do the full 80 characters. If we were to have a program listing that had, say, I equals 1 to 1000, print, hi there, I'm some text, let's do another print command, print another line, and next let's say something like that, but let's hypothetically say you wanted to add another command in there, but you don't have a lot of room. So we can actually cheat. So this, because we're typing in these commands in full, it is BASIC is storing those in full. So for example, print is being stored as 5 bytes because we've typed in the full word. Now something we've covered in other episodes is that there's an abbreviation for print, which is the question mark. Right? So we can use abbreviations to our advantage and shorten the number of characters that we're putting into a line, which gives us more room to add things. And you might have some kind of complex calculation and you want them all to happen consecutively on a line for whatever reason. We can shorten the line above by using a bunch of abbreviations. Now there's another trick, which is things such as spaces are optional, outside of strings, that is. So things like here, this for I, there's a space, there's a space, there's a space, we've got a space after the print statement, we've got a space after the print statement. So those are other ways that we can shorten the line, and we've seen from other episodes that we can, for example, print a string of text and then say semicolon and then maybe a variable name, right? The semicolon is also optional, so we can save another byte or another character on our line by getting rid of that. So there's a few little tricks that we can do. So let's replicate. Let's clear the screen first, and well, let's replicate line 10 and shrink it down by using some abbreviations. So there's, if you have the Commodore Programmer's Reference Guide on page 31, or at least in my edition, there's a table of Commodore 64 BASIC keywords, and that shows you the abbreviations. So a command, not all commands have abbreviations. For some really weird reason, input doesn't have an abbreviation. However, we can, so if we look through this, we can find that for, actually I'll switch into uppercase mode because that will look, when we press shift, if I press A, B, C, D, we get the normal uppercase characters, but if I hold down shift and go A, B, C, D, we get the graphical Petsky characters. So when you enter in abbreviations, they will always be, say, 2 or 3 letters or characters of that keyword, and then shift and then the next key. So go sub, for example, is GO shift S. So that is a tokenized shortcut or abbreviation for go sub. 4 is F shift O. So we can see that by doing that, we've saved one space on our line. We also don't need that space, so we can go I equals 1. We don't need the space. 2, 1000. We'll put our colon in. We can abbreviate print to question mark. We don't need the space, so we can say, hi there, I'm some text, and you can already see we've saved a few characters. All right, now colon print, we don't need the space, another line, next. So we've produced the exact same code, but we've now got almost half a line where we can add more things if we wanted to. So I'll save that. Now, an interesting thing is that when you do the program listing, when you type list, it will expand those, right? So given the fact that now it almost looks like lines 10 and 20 now almost look the same, with the exception of those spaces between the for and the print commands, right? So if we have a line that, let's re-edit our line 20, let's get rid of that, and let's say let's print let's go a third string. Ooh, that might be let's shrink that down. So we go a third string. Close that quote, and then we'll go colon next. Actually, another shortcut here that I have sort of made an assumption on is that in Commodore BASIC, when you do a for loop, normally you'd go for blah 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 blah, and if you're using the variable I, so for I equals 1 to 1,000, in a lot of other basic languages or basic interpreters, you would, when you do the next, you would have to specify the variable you are iterating through. So in other languages you would have to specify explicitly next I. Commodore BASIC, you don't need to do that. Again, another byte saving trick. So now we've got, we'll go to this, and so now we've got something that is now 78 characters long because of the shortcuts we've used. So we'll save that in, we'll say enter, and we'll list it. Now look at this. We didn't get a syntax error that it was over 80 characters, but it has clearly now expanded it to over 80 characters. Why does that work? Well, the reason is because BASIC is storing these tokenized versions of the commands. If we were to edit this and try and press enter now on this expanded line, we would get a syntax error because it thinks we've typed them all out in full. Or it just goes down to that line and fails completely. I thought we would get a syntax error. See, it's chopped. Actually, I thought we were going to get a syntax error. We haven't, but it's cut the line. So that it's a interesting trick, and it's a way of having a line that is effectively more than 80 characters. So we use those abbreviations to our benefit. Let's wipe line 20. So some of the, actually we could have saved another couple of bytes if we wanted to, because next can be shortened to N Shift E, in fact. So we can halve the number of bytes that we spend there. So it's a good reference to have, and to go through these. And if you're doing code, for example, like there are people who do the 10-line program competition kind of thing. So they've got to create an entire program in 10 lines, and those almost always exploit the fact that they will, to pack as much onto a line as they can, they'll use these abbreviated commands. If you were to try and type those commands in full, you wouldn't be able to. You wouldn't be able to get it into those 10 lines. So that is line lengths in Commodore BASIC. Now, the next thing we're going to talk about are, I'll clear the screen there, are maximum variable lengths. So we've got, as we've covered before, we've got 3 types of variables. We've got a normal number, so this will be a floating point number. We'll have a string, which is a string of text, and we can have an integer, which is a whole number, so it can't have a decimal place. Now, the floating point numbers can be, now I'm not a mathematician either, so I'm not going to be able to explain this, but if you understand maths or you care to look it up at some point, there are numeric exponents. So if you've got a number that is way too long and you print that number out, you'll see that it is actually printing it out as an exponent. Now, what I have found is that the maximum length, you can actually even say a equals 1e38. I'm not sure if you can even do it without the plus. I think the plus is because it's a positive number, you can do that by default. There we go. 1e38 is the maximum. 39 causes an overflow error. And so that is actually, I should have my background border a different color so I can see when I'm going to hit the next line. Oh, that's too many, I think. Alright, so that is 38. There should be 38 nines there. There we go. So 1e to the thingy of 38. I don't know what that means. So a normal floating point number can hold quite a lot. I'm not sure what's going to happen if you try and do maths with that. I only discovered that through experimentation. Now an integer, which is a number indicated by a percent sign, can be between negative 32768 and 32767, because it's also got 0. So it can't be so that's basically the range. You've got negative 32,768 through to positive 32,767. So if we tried to go a% equals 32,768, so positive 32,768, we'll get an illegal quantity error. 767, we're good. So that is the maximum length or the maximum size of an integer. Now a string can be 255 bytes or 255 characters, and So we can go to show that we can say for I equals 1 to 2 5. Let's make it a program that we can edit. For I equals 1 to 256. Well, let's go 255 so we don't get a fail first time. 20, our S, or let's S string equals S string plus A. Right, so we're going to say that each time it loops through, it's going to add the character A, so it's going to add one more byte or one more character to our variable S string. All right, and then at the end of that we will print S string. So let's run that. So this is going to be now 255 characters long. Bam, done. Now, if we were to edit that to say 256, which is one character too many, our string is now too long. So can we print it? We can still print it. So what happened was the failure, the error that we got in line 20, was actually when it tried to add another character to that string. It said, no, I can't, too long. So, which is an interesting thing, because you obviously, if you were to make a text string in your code and you wanted it that long, you couldn't do it because of the limitations of the line numbers in the basic programs. So effectively a cheat is to do what this is doing. So if you wanted S string equals, this is a bunch of text, and then later, like say the next line of code, you could say S string equals S string plus some more, and then when you print S string, it will have concatenated those. So you can use that to get around the basic line length. I think this might be one of the shorter videos, so I'm going to leave that with you. I hope you're enjoying the series. I will, as I've said before, I'm now going to be putting these out once a week, so I'm going to be uploading them Friday my time, Saturday my time, which is, I think, is going to coincide with Friday afternoon about 2 p.m. New York time, and I think Toronto time, given where we are on the end of the planet. So these will come out in time for you to watch them on the weekend. I'll leave it at that. Thanks for watching. Thanks for your support. Please leave comments, thoughts, feedback in the comment section below, and we'll see you in the next video.